At first, I thought it was all about the diet and the workout. The first 6 months, I kept going, what in the world is wrong? Why do some people just continually sabotage themselves, right? Why does this continually happen? What is going on? They've consciously made a choice. I want to commit to this, and then they can't, right? So what is going on? And then I realized it was right here, which really refocused for me everything on this whole Zen protocol thinking, this mindset thing. What's going on, brother? What are you up to, man?
Just finishing up another week, trying to be great. It's not always fucking hitting the mark, but maybe every once in a while.
Dude, it is 92 degrees in Miami right now. 92 degrees. I love it.
I picked somebody up from the airport. My aunt who lives in around Orlando, and she was already complaining about the heat down there, saying it's getting pretty intense.
It's getting today was intense, but I was up on the roof going for a swim, but right before we recorded, so you will never catch me complaining about when it's nice and sunny. So as long as I have a pool, I got the ocean.
You're in Miami or you're in Destin right now?
No, I'm in Miami. Yeah, I'm in Miami full time now. So if I travel, it'll be up there every once in a while. But man, no, I'm down.
Got it.
And I'm waiting for my motorcycle. Oh, I can't wait to get it, man. I'm so pumped.
Nice. There's a pool. There's a pool on the rooftop of the building.
Yeah.
That's dope.
It's so cool. And you know what's weird about Miami is that. So I was talking to someone. They're like, what you're gonna see is that it is clearing out right now, and so all these people come here. Like snowbirds they call them, and they'll come here for winter to get away from the cold. And now that it's heating up and everywhere that they live is becoming temperate or hotter, then they leave. And so I was up at the pool, it's like empty. Whereas a couple weeks ago, there were like, 6, 7 people up there. So it's wild. It's friggin' wild, man. But it felt so good to just jump in the pool, man, and just swim. And oh my God.
What's the scene at the pool like? Is the scene at the pool like is it like South Beach? Is it like
no? I don't live in South Beach. So South Beach is like it's wild. So people think when they think Miami, they think like party and South Beach and all that.
I think South Beach right away.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. But no. There's so many different areas it's almost like I've realized you actually have to learn. You have to get familiar with every different part of Miami. There's like the beaches, South Beach, but then there's South Beach and then Mid Beach and North Beach, where South Beach is the crazy one that we all equate with Miami. But it's almost like thinking Southern California is Venice Beach. Venice Beach is crazy, but that's not really Southern California.
Yeah, that's just a pocket.
Yeah. So no, it's really chill where I am. Really chill. So I'm digging
awesome.
it, man. I'm digging it. How you doing, man? What's new with you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm just trying to keep a pace, keep all the balance of all the things, make sure I'm eating good, make sure I'm training, but also making sure I'm having a little bit of fun when it's possible.
It's funny. You mentioned like the different spheres of like trying to keep the balance together. And I just posted something and people always, they kind of like, they don't understand it. And I don't think I really understood it at first either, was the importance of, I really link meditation with, it's almost like steroids, like taking steroids for your body, because it's, if you think about it, people take steroids in order to recover. That's it. That's what steroids are all about. You work out harder. It's like the idea of taking steroids and not working out is like, that to me doesn't make much sense. The reason athletes take steroids is because it speeds up their recovery. And the reason that, especially for MMA fighters, the reason like that whole era, like, Lyoto Machida and during that whole thing. And I'm not signaling him out, but Vitor Belfort and all these guys at that point, Dan Henderson, that whole era where they really weren't testing. The reason steroids are so powerful for MMA is it's not just that it makes you more aggressive. It's that it allows you to work when you're 35 years old, 40 years old. It allows you to get in like 4 or 5 workouts,
Yeah,
right, in a
and recover
day
fast.
and recover
Yeah,
fast where you're
yeah.
not overtraining. And
Yep, yep, yep.
so, but one thing I've known, being in gyms forever is that like real bodybuilders are so they focus so much on their rest and their sleep. Like I remember reading articles with guys talking about how, they would count their steps that they would take
Interesting.
outside of the gym because they knew that, bodybuilding is really a science. And so they understood even back in the 80s that the science of bodybuilding is you tear down your body in the gym, and then when you rest, it recovers. But it only recovers when you rest. And so we get into this. I was talking to Dr. Andy Galpin, who's been on Huberman, right? I've known
Yeah.
Andy for a while. I had him on my podcast a long time ago. And we were talking about the concept of HRV. And he was talking on Huberman about how even Huberman was like, what's the best thing we could do after a workout? I think it was paraphrasing him to build muscle. And he's like, lay down in a dark, quiet room or
Mm,
listen to very calming music because the nervous system goes up. And when the nervous system's up and allows us to get an intense workout in, like in jiu-jitsu, we're engaging in kind of a semi-fight or flight. You're on it. That's why the whole world vanishes. But
yep.
then when you're done, the body now has to recover. And if the next thing we do after jujitsu is then drink 3 Red Bulls, you know what I mean, and go charge,
Yeah.
listen to heavy metal music, and just go charge throughout the day,
Yeah, yeah.
we don't recover.
Yeah, like you should like go lay in a hammock and eat a mango or something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
But
it's hard, man. It's hard.
that's where meditation comes in. And that's why when I said, and I posted that about, meditation is like steroids, it's actually, in my opinion, it's better than steroids, right? Because it puts your body in this supreme state of relaxation and allows the body to start recovering and start repairing.
Well, and I think that like, we were talking before about like balance and like everybody, in today's day and age, you have such a full life with so many things that you gotta like, the the meditation giving you the ability to kind of take a second and recover your mental balance, like because like everything is like fighting itself in your head, like all the different priorities. I mean, at least I know that that's my life all the time. I constantly have like a battle of priorities inside my head, and you have such a better day life way forward when you can kind of see all of the buckets clearly. You can kind of compartmentalize. Like being able to compartmentalize mentally is so important, and I think meditation helps that. Otherwise, it's just everything knocking, against itself. Whereas like when you're in, whenever I'm in a flow where I'm meditating frequently, I can always like feel like when all of a sudden your mind go, even like in the middle of the day, in the middle of doing things, your mind will go blank and you'll all of a sudden like remember that you're just this breathing bag of fucking meat walking around. And like, you just have that second to where like, all right, I feel my breath rise and fall. And it's a cool feeling because it kind of cuts you out of like that wild cacophony that's like happening inside of your dome.
Yeah, and what I think is really cool about that is that that wild cacophony, what I find, if you think about like when I wake up in the morning and I've had a great night's sleep, right? I wake up and my physical state is such that I'm like, ah, that was amazing. Everything's calm. I'm not on the phone yet. I'm not doing anything. And my mind is just very relaxed, right? I'm in that Zen state right then. And then what happens? Then we ramp up and we get our coffee, we start doing our things. Then all of a sudden, responsibilities come at us. Then we've got
Yeah.
conflicts with different decisions we have to make. Then all of a sudden it starts getting ramped up. But what I find, if you think about it, it's like because we're in our minds all the time, we're thinking that the war is happening up here, but the reality is the war is happening down here. So what I mean by that is that let's say you have three people calling you at once, and all three people need three different things. And you've got to figure, and all of them are under a deadline, right? Which is not
Yeah.
uncommon for business, right? So
Huh.
you're like, shit, I got this, I've got this. What happens? So you're thinking these things, but it's eliciting inside of our bodies like this tension. And this tension
100%.
starts to rise up in the body, right? So it's almost this feedback loop of mind and body. Mind and body goes through the vagus nerve and it stirs up all this in the body. What I think happens that people don't pay enough attention to is that the state of the body below here is what is creating the chaos here. Now, the chaos here also stimulated this. So they are this
Sure.
interlooping thing. But to cut it off, I think the work has to be done down here. It has to be like, okay, I've got to do something to release this tension in the body. And when I release the tension in the body, then the mind and the cacophony, as you were saying, in the mind starts to calm down. I don't think it's very difficult for me to get when this is so crazy right here to calm this down. I think, and
Sure.
that's why, I know quite a few business executives and people who make a lot of money. You know what they get addicted to? They get addicted to massages because
Mm.
what happens is they get so chaotic with everything, all their responsibilities, and then they realize I've got the money, I'm going to pay for a massage right now. I get a massage and it releases all the tension in the body, which releases the tension right here.
Interesting.
There's this
Yeah.
fascinating thing, right? And so what I find helps me, this kind of leads to, look at that. See, AI is kicking ass right there. So but I think if we understand this, if we understand that, then I think we can adapt a protocol, right? Like instead of getting a massage, who has the time for that? I don't, to get that done. That's where I think meditation comes into play. But sometimes people say that it's very difficult for them to sit and their mind is going crazy. And I think the reason it's very difficult is because down here is so like antsy that it's very difficult to sit with this tension in just being quiet. And it's like
Yeah.
it's like this. And that's where I think like breathing comes in. And I think like box breathing or just pranayama breathing or HRV breathing. It's all the same. It's all related. And Andy Galpin is really big on like the HRV breathing. And the real thing with the HRV breathing is you just do like I even put a video out on it. You do 6 seconds in,
It's just
count your
timed in
breath,
and out, right?
6 seconds out, 6 seconds
Yep.
in, 6 seconds out. Very basic breathing.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
you can do the box breathing, right? Where you go 5 seconds in, 5 seconds, hold it, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds, hold it, 5 seconds. And I think more than anything that I've ever done is the breathing brings all of this back down. And as this starts to drop and starts to calm down and we get more zen, we get more zen with this, then the thoughts, the story, the thoughts start to calm down.
Yeah. I
And as
do
we
agree that go ahead.
Mhm. No, you go.
I agree with what you were saying earlier about how like when you train, like when my head's jammed up and I go and I start to train, whether it's jujitsu or just lifting weights or whatever, I think that is pretty like miraculous how
Oh my gosh.
like I have a little gym set up at my house, and like sometimes after a full day of work, I'll come home and like, I got these two giant dogs running around. I got my kids, and like there's just like a whole universe that is unlike the crazy universe that I just came from. And I'll go in the gym and I have a Peloton and I'll do 20 minutes on the Peloton, and
Mhm.
it'll like wipe, like clear your cache almost like on the internet. Like it just clears up, and it's so wild how just getting that body moving in that flow just clears up the mind, and it does it so quick. It's not perfect. It doesn't always do it. Sometimes you can't work out, through a bad mood or whatever it is, but like it often does the trick, and it's pretty powerful.
It is. And I think this is like a key aspect of like, we always are thinking people are talking about, performing at peak performance, right? When this is up to here, it's impossible. That is one of the
Sure.
reasons, like, Jeff Bezos was talking about his morning routine and how, he takes his most difficult meetings in the morning because at 10 a.m., because later in the day, when the body, the tension of the day rises up through the body, right, we lose our bandwidth.
Mm.
So when I
Yeah,
used
for
to,
sure.
when I was in law school, we would you in the morning I would go to the library and I would just load up, and that was at a time when we had books, and I would have like five or six, seven books on the library on the table that I designated my area, and I would just start reading, and it would be 8 to 10 hours of reading every day,
Hmm.
and it was the worst material. It's not Stephen King, right? This is
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
there's nothing fun about this, but you had to digest all this information. And
Wow.
one of the things that I did because I meditated at the time, this is when I really, 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 it hit home for me how powerful it was, is that if I went 6 hours of reading and then I just couldn't read anymore, which really, if you think about it, what happens when we're reading? We have even or looking at a computer, we have strain in our eyes. All of this starts to get manifested down into the body, and
Hmm.
so as the tension builds in the body, right? Then it becomes very difficult to think with the mind. And so what I would do is when I would meditate, and I'm telling you, after 20, 30 minutes, I would come back to reading, and it was like I started a brand new day. Brand new day.
That's amazing.
Yeah, from meditation. And I credit for me, law school was very enjoyable. I loved it. And I think it's because of meditation. And so,
Interesting.
yeah, so, you look at someone like Bezos, who I don't know if he meditates or not, but what I take away from what he's saying, and the reason he schedules his meetings so early is because there's no tension in the body at that point, right?
Yeah.
So at that point at 10 a.m., he's feeling good. He talks about how he putters around. He's like, I putter around until 10 a.m. It's very chill. I'm reading the paper. I don't take any calls. I'm hanging out with my family. And then I take my most important meeting because I have the most bandwidth. Why? For me, because you have none of this. But if we can, that's where I think the reason probably the samurai were so into meditation and Zen was because they realized when you clear this out, you clear this out.
Yeah, 100%.
Gives you that
100%.
bandwidth, right?
It makes a lot of sense. And, and bandwidth is, the older you get, the more you realize that it's so fucking finite. You know what I mean?
Oh
It's
my
not everlasting.
God.
And like,
Yeah.
being able to maximize whatever time you're spending on whatever it is that you're focusing on, how precious it is to have a clear head to do the things that are hopefully going to create impact.
Well, that's a good point because for you, you're an entrepreneur, right? How important is focus for you?
Oh man. It's like oil underneath the ground, man. It's like the most precious thing that there is.
Right? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
because the things that you do make such a big impact every day on on output and how successful you are. I'm sure it's everything, right? Where you're just like, if I'm
But
not focused,
100%. And in regards to meditation and mindfulness, what I am constantly up against is the like how like it's so obvious to me that more of the problems and the challenges exist not in necessarily what is outward and external, but my ability to just compartmentalize, focus, move from one thing to the other, and prioritize. Like the largest amounts of stress, I don't think are coming at me from the things that I'm worried about. They're coming at me from like my interpretation of like what has to be done or the expectations that I'm putting on myself or, putting myself into the future of like what's going to happen rather than like, all right, these are the set of things that are being worked on. How do we put them all in their box and give them whatever attention that they need at this particular time? But there's this, back to what we talk about a lot, like there's just this story that's in your head, and that story is constantly playing on loop and just creating this tension, and then you feel it in your body, and you know what I mean, and you
goes,
feel it in your body, and you feel just tight, and then that tightness leads to more discomfort and more like what the fuck am I doing, and blah, blah, blah. It's wild. It is truly a very interesting thing when if you can stop for a second and just see it as it plays out. And I think that I have definitely throughout the years I have made progress in my ability to talk about it like this
yeah.
and be aware of that it's a thing, but it's still a work in progress of trying to like continue to minimize that psycho suffering that goes on in your head.
No shit, man. It's all suffering. All
Yeah.
the suffering is right here between these two. Yeah, and you bring up something really. You hit on something that's really cool. Is that, and I think really important. Like when I teach people meditation, we started out talking about the feeling, right? When we can dissipate, when that tension comes up to here, and we can dissipate it, right? That is a powerful thing because then we get when it is completely dissipated and gone. That's like my zen, right? I call that like my zen. And but the reality is there are many ways that we can dissipate this energy, but the real purpose of meditation is not to achieve, is not to dissipate this. That's not what meditation is about. Meditation is really about learning to let go. And
Hmm.
we've talked about this at length, is that the mind wants to attach to things, and when the mind attaches to things is when it creates that tension, and we can't let it go, and we obsess. The mind wants to obsess about things. And so with meditation, like when I teach people, I emphasize, and I'll do it on this podcast and talk about it again and again, the 3 R's. Is we recognize, if we're meditating on our breath, or we're watching a candle, or we're repeating a mantra, whatever it is, we are always trying to come back to that thing. But we recognize when we're having a thought, because thoughts are going to come. We release the thought, and we return to whatever it is that we're focusing on.
Recognize,
Mantra.
release, return. Those are
That's
the
right. The 3 R's: recognize, release, return. And so the benefit is not that's the secondary benefit, is dissipating this energy and getting to Zen. The real benefit is doing a rep. Every time we recognize a thought or a worry or a concern or whatever it is, and then we release it and we return, that's one rep. The more
yeah.
reps we do, the more we learn to recognize, release, and return throughout the day.
Whereas
Right?
whereas the natural instinct upon recognizing, you then like double and triple down rather than
That's right.
release and return. So recognizing like a feeling or an anxious moment usually leads you to just continue to further invest in that anxious moment and that anxious thought, and it breeds more and it breeds more. Whereas like recognize, release, return, like, that is truly that's the cycle of what, the ideal scenario, because it's like, yeah, you can't control externally the things that are happening to you. You can't even control internally the amount of things that your brain is processing and creating. But if you could get better at like letting it pass and then just getting back to where you were, it's that's it. That's it. It's like you're saying, it's reps, man. It's people get so hung up about meditation being like this foo Eastern, spiritual, and like, and yeah, there is that stuff to it, but it's also just reps, like training. It's and
It
I think people can engage with that. That's a lot less, the fence is a lot less high to get into that, to find your way in, if you think about it that way.
I love that. And what I heard from that is that, you know, the reality is that we have, within macho culture, there's this resistance like to things like meditation. And I think that's changing. But the reality is, we talked about how bodybuilding is science, right? I'm sure when people first started bodybuilding, that there were men that were at the bar going, well, real men don't lift weights, and all that shit. Real
Yeah,
men
yeah,
don't do whatever. I don't need jujitsu.
sure,
I'm just tough.
yep,
No, working out is science. And now we know the
yep,
more reps we do, the stronger we get. Well, the samurai understood it before, in ancient feudal Japan, that if you could meditate, then you and do these reps. It's just like lifting weights. You do the reps, you get stronger. You do the reps with meditation, and your mind gets stronger. You get more
mhm,
discipline. What is a disciplined mind? A disciplined mind is one that just lets things go, because
yeah.
the mind is going to kick out 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 40
That's
to
so many.
60,000, and we don't have any control over it. So it's just going to be, it's a muscle spasm all day long. Pop, 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 pop. If you have someone has an undisciplined mind, it attaches to the most fearful thought, and it just holds on, and it thinks about it and ruminates on it. And then the body starts to rise up in this subtle fight or flight that then all of a sudden is not subtle. And that's where people have road rage and all that nonsense, right? They're always
Yeah,
angry, they're always upset, they always have a grudge. That's an undisciplined mind. If there's
sure.
anyone
No,
who needs meditation, it's that person. But we
so
all
yeah,
do.
it's the regular Joe. No, but it's the regular Joe who's got no awareness of how much, it's controlling his whole life.
It's crazy, right? And you
Yeah,
realize that when you start to meditate. I think you start to gain that awareness when you start to watch your mind. Like for me, with Mushin mind, with competition, with jujitsu, it's if you go into a competition and you start to allow your mind to freak out under that pressure, you'll lose it. You will fucking lose it. You
yeah,
watch guys. I was talking to a black belt last night, and he was like, you can watch people as he's actually a IBJJF referee. And so he's like, you can watch people breaking as they're about to step on the mat. They
Mm,
are just like so like nervous. They can't control their minds. They just break. And
yeah.
I think that's why some people don't like to compete, because it's not that their jujitsu isn't good. It's just that pressure cooker, you know,
Well,
is
I
so
see that.
unbearable.
I see that. It's so funny. It's like when you start to think about this stuff, you begin to see, like, that's like a Musashi thing. Like, you see the way broadly, you see it in all things. Um,
Hmm.
but like I see that with like employees that I have. Like,
Really?
what's a constant recurring theme is this like fear of making a mistake or not like doing something the right way that holds people back from like so many things. Like, rather than approach the problem with how do I best deal with this, and it's going to be a process to figure that out, it's like this anxious energy to where like I just need to know that I'm doing this the right way. I just need to get the validation that like I'm not a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Rather than we're all fucking idiots at some time or another, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And have a little bit of confidence and ease and calm in, we're going to work this out, whatever the problem is. But it's like you see people approach, you know, like getting on the mat. You see like them like not just before we've even gotten into the meat and potatoes of what we're dealing with, you can see the anxious need for approval or like to take that anxiety away. And it's like it's not the answer. The answer is you got to slow yourself down and have a little bit of confidence and calm over the fact that like it's all right. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna figure this shit out one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I
And
see it
just
in I see it.
get in the flow, right? And just
Yeah. And I see it in people all the time. Like, they beat themselves. They beat themselves before they even start because they want to just like get it over with, check the box. You know what I mean? All right, I did it. You know what I mean? And with this anxious, nervous energy. And it's not, nothing great gets produced that way. Nothing.
there was this, I don't remember which podcast, but Rick Rubin was talking about recording the Chili Peppers.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he was talking about, I think it was John Frusciante, the guitar player. And John was playing a solo. They were recording a solo. And when he came into the engineering booth, the engineer said, "Man, that was incredible, incredible solo." And John stopped and said, "Please don't ever say anything like that to me again," and then walked out.
Mm,
And the engineer was like, but what Rick said was, an artist cannot be self-conscious. If you're going
yeah.
to be in the flow, the last thing you should be thinking about is, what are other people thinking? What is the
Yeah.
guy in the engineering booth? It's very
It's
dangerous.
dangerous because you can't really to produce art and to carry a thought out from here and then make it manifest into the world. It's got to be the least amount of barrier, like, because the moment you start thinking about like, well, who's this for and how's it going to play and is this the right thing, it breaks down the whole like connection. Like, a lot of the guys that I work with, like when we're doing this shit, we talk like about, like, and I'm not a religious person at all, but like we talk about how like the art of like making music and like writing songs and like creating stuff that wasn't there. It's almost as if like there's some sort of like connection to like God or like whatever that thing is that's out there, like, that higher power. And it's like when you're in the process and you've made the connection and it's like downloading through you, the last thing that you want to do is insert your own biases or insecurities, or you just want to let that shit flow. And then after, pen's been put to paper or you press record or you painted, like you can then go back later and analyze it and like think about like, well, what's it about? What does it mean? What's this going to do? but you can't do that when the satellite's overhead. When the satellite's
Mm.
overhead, you just got to like open up the pathways and let it run and like do everything. It's and almost like surfing. It's like you're riding that wave,
Oh yeah.
and you just got to try to
Yeah.
ride it as long as you possibly can. And that's it. And that pertains to so many things in life.
Almost everything. I mean, that's jujitsu, right? That's
Yeah.
surfing. You want to lose yourself. The idea with
Yep.
motion mind was drill, 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 until you get to the point where you're not thinking about it anymore. Those techniques,
Yeah.
like when I'm sparring, I'm already like, dude, I don't need, I'm not thinking anymore. I'm just like going, 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 going.
Yeah.
And
You're just
surfing is the
doing.
same
You just
way. Things are
yep.
coming up or playing guitar, right? Playing
Same
guitar if
thing.
I'm playing with the band. Yeah, but there had to be 1,000 hours of running scales for me to learn
Yep.
how to play, to play lead guitar. But then you forget that. You forget that. Well,
Yeah.
it's wild. The other side of like meditation is, and the idea that I love with meditation is that, we have, and this plays right into what you're saying. We have our attention, right? That's the one thing we can control. We don't even know if we can control, like if our thoughts are coming up from our subconscious, right? We talked about this. I'll say it again. You know, we can process like 40 bits of information in the conscious mind per second. We can process like 11 million. We do process 11 million subconsciously per second. It's not even a
It's insane.
comparison. Everything is coming, if you look at an iceberg, everything is coming from below.
Hmm.
So we have this thing that we can control, which is our attention, right? We cannot control our thoughts. Our thoughts just come up 40,000. Boom. We can attach to them, and then we can cultivate them, and we can link them. But when they come up, if you sit back and you meditate, you watch the mind do its thing. It's just going pop, 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 thought, then this thought, then this thought, then this thought. With what we do with meditation also is we are taking our attention and we are redirecting it. From the moment we wake up, we start directing our attention outward. That's called extroverting. So we put our attention outward. When we meditate and close our eyes and sit in silence, this is why I don't do guided meditations. I want to go inside now. So I want to point that attention inside through the conscious mind, then down. The idea is then down through the subconscious mind. So what happens is that we actually are diving deeper inside of ourselves through the conscious mind, then through the subconscious mind, and then below that, the idea is that below the subconscious mind is our pure awareness.
Hmm.
And that is who we really are. The link with I don't know. Have you ever heard of Roger Penrose, Sir Roger Penrose? This is
It's
wild.
not,
So
not
he won the Nobel Prize. Sir Roger Penrose is a physicist. I think it was 2022, um, and he won the Nobel Prize and leading physicist. And he believes in a philosophy called panpsychism. Have you ever heard of that?
no.
So panpsychism holds. So the idea, the exploration, the science with quantum physics, and the reason we have the Large Hadron Collider, and the reason we discovered the Higgs boson, trying to figure out really not just how the universe works, but the ultimate goal is to figure out what is the fundamental field. The universe is made up of invisible fields. These are quantum fields, right? And so one of the fields was the Higgs boson. That was discovered a few years ago. And that's what makes the whole universe work. But below it's like if I'm looking at a wall, the fundamental nature of the wall is not the wall, it's the bricks. Well, below the bricks is the sand. Well, below the
Yeah.
sand, so the sand is not fundamental. Fundamental means there's nothing below it. Below the
Yeah.
sand, you have atoms, right? And molecules and then particles. What's below the particles? The idea
That's
with
that's crazy.
I know,
When you
I
start to
know.
follow those lines, it makes your head hurt.
hmm But the idea with panpsychism is that the fundamental field, because again, quantum field theory, QFT, is all about, what is it that, because we know, like this microphone right here, this is not solid. This is not
No.
solid. My bracelet's not solid. This is not solid. This is an illusion. This is why we are in an illusion. We know we're in an illusion. We're in a simulation without question. But the simulation, the question is, what is creating the simulation, right? Is
What's
it
it
our
made of?
imaginations or who's creating it? Is there a
Yeah.
computer? Is it just materialism? Is it just physics? We don't know. It'll be science, whatever it is, it's science. But the real question is the ultimate question, what is at the bottom of it all? Because if this is really just more space than it is solid, what's at the bottom of that? And so panpsychism holds that the most fundamental field of any in the universe is a field of consciousness.
Like
That's what,
awareness?
yeah, yes. It's just one pure field of consciousness. That's it.
Yeah, well, it's the
And
only
everything
it's
springs from that. Every field
yeah.
springs from that when you go down. And so the idea for ancient, like Rishi meditation, like especially Advaita Vedanta, is that when you meditate and you turn that awareness inward, that attention inward, and you dive down through the conscious mind, down through the subconscious, then what happens is you dip eventually into this field of pure awareness. And that is where the field from which everything springs of the entire universe. And when you're
Yeah.
meditating or doing psychedelics or doing really heavy psychedelics, because what happens with the mind with psychedelics from a scientific standpoint, again, is it shuts off an area of the brain called the default mode network, where all the stories exist. And when the stories are gone, that's the conscious mind. When the stories are gone, you connect with, you go down through the subconscious, which gets scary. Then you arrive at a place where everything feels connected. And when we meditate, you will have moments where all of a sudden time and space are gone, just moments.
Mm.
And the idea is that at those times, that's when our attention has become one with that unified field of pure awareness.
Yeah, man.
And there's no
Heavy.
time or space. Yeah, it's really heavy.
Heavy.
It's cool though, right?
It's super cool. It's super cool because it's I mean it's the longest running question in the books, like, what are we? Why are we here? What is this place? What's it all about? It's the longest running question out. And
Well,
nobody really has the final answer. A lot of
no.
approximations.
Yeah, and so what like ancient rishis would say is that the ultimate reality, you don't need to guess it, you can experience it.
Hmm.
And you can experience it through, that's why there was such a connection, like especially in the 60s, like with Ram Dass and a lot of people who first started studying psychedelics, was that there's a connection between meditation and psychedelics. Because
Definitely.
what they
Definitely.
both do is they allow you to dive down into that field of pure awareness and experience complete infinity, where you're just like those moments of
Yeah.
like,
Well,
whoa,
time and space
whoa.
get shut off. Yeah, for sure.
And they say that is so, I don't know, for me it's very addicting because I love that feeling. When I get that feeling, I'm like, and come back, it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's it right there. That's it right
I
there.
think I mean, I think that like we're all on certain levels, like chasing that, you know what I mean, in different ways. But not everybody, can articulate it the way we're doing it right now. But I think like we're all chasing those little moments of, being able to get out of time and space, to get out of the crushing realities of like, what's the fucking point of all this? What's the meaning
Oh my
of
God.
because like when you think about it, like animals, like from as much as we know, like, you know, they don't have that piece of reality. Their reality is just, survival, and they're moving through the world, and, they're not thinking about time the way that we think about it. They're not thinking about space the way that we think about it. It's not, it's not there. And it's like, what we just have an extra level, our, like you're talking about the fields, our brain comes with additional field capacity that, seemingly other species don't have. And, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be some sort of a reason why, we're on this planet, and, where there's 7 billion of these creatures walking around that are distinctly different in a very specific way from every other thing that's on this planet. There has to be some reason for that. That can't be a random occurrence. I don't think.
I don't know. I don't know. That's where that like I'm very, believe it or not, like as much craziness as I went through with the meditation. To me, that is that is science. Like that is of course it's speculation at some points, but the experience of losing oneself, shutting off the default mode network, losing oneself to time into a place where there is no time and space, that's real. I experience that. I feel it. Other people experience it. It's awesome, to go
Well, it's
down
just
through my subconscious.
it's a testament to how much I was going to say how much control we have. I don't want to say that because that word carries some negative connotations, but it's a testament to how we have power to influence our realities. Like we have the ability to access levels of consciousness and reality and create a more favorable outcome for ourselves. We just don't invest enough time and energy as a society in accessing that. And maybe, which is kind of a big part of the conversation that you and I have been having, is that, hopefully in the optimist view of the future is we're moving to a place where we're going to be able to spend more time, energy, and resources accessing those states.
Well, I think what you're saying is that we have free will, and I beg to differ. I don't think human
Yeah.
beings have free will until when they're up to here with the tension, right? And shit is just there. We are reactive. And I think when
Mm.
we're in a reactive state and things are up to here, that's when we go, why did I do that? The hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
Have you ever had those moments?
Oh.
I have,
Yeah.
and they're usually under, stress or whatever,
Yeah.
duress that is caused because we have this ability, we have these conscious, sentient thinking minds where we can project into the future, look into the past, but that causes so much freaking anguish. Most people
Yeah.
in the world are suffering, because of that right there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I don't think we do. I don't think we have free will. I don't.
So
I think
do you think the patterns are preordained, like destiny almost?
it's all science. It's. I don't think. I believe that human beings have free will only when they can put themselves in a state in which they're not reactive, and they gain that awareness when they look back, when they like meditation like teaches us, it gives us awareness, we observe, like we get, I use the analogy like we it's like being in a movie theater, and every time we do
Yeah.
reps, the longer we
Yep.
practice, the
You're getting
farther
further
back we
away.
are from the
Yeah, it's cool.
from the movie screen. So I think that when we are in this state of more zen, we have a greater degree of free will because we can look at things and go, Okay, I'm going to make a choice here. And we're aware that we're making a choice. Most of the time, people are like, bah, 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 I got to do this. I got to work hard. I got to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they're not.
Fuck.
They don't. They don't. So I know I don't. I don't feel like if I look back on my life, if I look at my in times of extreme stress where I haven't afforded myself that, and been in that state, then no, I'm just running on freaking reactions like an animal,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like an animal.
Yeah.
You know
Yep.
what's really cool is that David Lynch is a big, the from Eraserhead and
Yep.
the director, painter, amazing painter. He is really, really big into meditation. He's got a foundation that teaches meditation. And his philosophy, his belief is that when we everything I just told you is he's a proponent of that, where we dive through the conscious mind, the subconscious into that field. His belief is when we dive down into that field of pure awareness, that is the true wellspring of all um, creativity. And so
Yeah.
when you're talking about channeling like from above, he's really it's really, if you think about it, there is no space and time at that fundamental field, so it's everywhere. But the idea
Yeah.
is when we
Sure.
dive down into it, we actually connect with that field in a pure. It's always there because that's who we are, but it gets clouded by the chaos in here and in here, the chaos in here, tension here that creates the chaos here. And so his whole
Whoa, it's
belief
wild.
is if you want to be creative, there's nothing that will make you more creative than meditation.
Yeah. That's true. It's true because you can just feel and sense so much deeper.
And you're just in it. And I think for musicians, especially, like I love to listen. I'm such a Chili Peppers fan, and I love all of those guys talk about, they're almost like a jazz band because they do so much impromptu, like just when they get on stage, that first 15 minutes when they play, you go online and watch on YouTube, every opening is different. And they're just
Yeah.
tuning into each other. They don't know what they're going to play. And the main thing that they talk about in interviews is being in a pure just a not a state where they're not thinking about the audience, they're not thinking about anything, they're just trying to feel the music.
Yeah.
That's
And
hard,
play,
man.
like the word play is like so powerful
Yeah,
because that's like what they're doing. They're just playing. You know what I mean? They're just playing together and not thinking about it and like not worrying about like, am I hitting the right note or am I doing the right thing? Is my part okay? Once you can like divest yourself from that, you reach so many incredible places. And it's hard to do. But if you're lucky enough to work at that type of stuff for, if you're lucky enough to experience it even a little bit of the time, how amazing it really is.
it is. Dude, I'll leave you at this. All right. This is the craziest story ever. So, you know, I work with clients, I help them lose weight, get in shape, all that. And I quickly realized as I started doing this like 4 or 5 years ago and helping people, I quickly realized at first I thought it was all about like the diet and the workout, right? And I quickly realized it didn't happen quickly because the first 6 months I kept going, what in the world is wrong? Why are people not, why do some people just continually sabotage themselves, right? Why does this continually happen? What is going on? They've consciously made a choice. I want to commit to this, and then they can't, right? So what is going on? And then I realized it was right here, which really refocused for me everything on this whole Zen protocol thinking, this mindset thing. I've been working since the past year with a client who is a software guy, right? Artist, but software guy, does computer animation. Great guy. Never worked out a day in his life. Never worked out at all, right? Totally unhealthy, didn't eat well, way overweight. As I started to work with him on the mind and we started talking. He told me, I don't have thoughts. So he doesn't have an inner dialogue
Oh
at
shit, I've
all.
heard about this. I've heard about this.
Yeah. He has no inner dialogue. Yes, he will have images, but he has no inner dialogue at all. At all.
I have heard about this.
Dude, I was like, this chatter that plagues so much of humanity, you don't have that? He's like, no. And so I started researching it too. And I was like, what in the world is going on here? How is that
Yeah,
possible?
not everybody has an internal monologue.
No internal monologue. And
It's
so
crazy to think about that because mine is like on steroids, you know,
talking shit
emperor.
at you all day, talking shit at
Yeah.
this one over here.
Yeah. I got fucking Emperor Palpatine in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm a year in with him. What do you think his results have been?
I don't know. I could theorize both. I could see it both ways. I could see how like not having an inner monologue is a superpower, and I could also see it as it being a challenge.
Dude, he is like
He's
ripped.
killing it.
He's ripped. He's
Wow.
doing, as far as like lateral raises, as much weight as me. He's doing like 20, 25-pound lateral raises, complete to failure. He does yoga every day. He does everything everything that I laid out, he does it. And the results are, he doesn't have that inner monologue that he has to spend so much time taming that the rest of us have to tame.
Yeah.
So
that's incredible.
I know. I don't even, sometimes I'm just like, when we talk, I'm just like, oh my God, I cannot believe the results that that he has gotten. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It doesn't sabotage him. He doesn't have this thing.
He's not beating himself.
Nope. Just happy.
You know, other things might beat him, but he's not going to beat himself. I mean, that's the holy grail, man. You know,
it is the holy grail.
Well, we got to get some of his. We could get some of his blood and see if we can sell it. You know,
right? Hey, come on, we're gonna do a retreat. Come on, come down to Mexico with us, right?
Yeah. Just lay down on this table.
No, it's, you know, and the idea, I think that, you know, as far as we go back to where the subject here is meditation, the idea is, how do you judge? And this is an ancient question, and this has been answered by ancient rishis. How do you judge your progress with meditation? And it's really the ability to not attaching to thoughts. The less that we find ourselves at, and like everything, what did Miyamoto say? You know, whatever we do will bleed through. If you want to practice martial arts, it's not just about martial arts, it's going to bleed through the rest of your life. And so the more we learn to release and return, the more we do it throughout the day. And the more we do that, we do it subconsciously, just like in jiu-jitsu. Like, you're doing jiu-jitsu, you got your favorite move. You don't have to think about that anymore, man. Right? You're just going. Pop, 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 pop. And it's the same thing with anything we train will infiltrate it'll permeate the rest of our lives. And so that's what happens. We meditate, and then all of a sudden the rest of your life, when the 40,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day are coming, and the most fearful ones are the ones that attract us the most. When we just release them, we're like, oh, it's just thought, it's just thought, it's just thought. Then this doesn't build up in here. And when this doesn't build up, we don't have the cacophony. And that's the way that's the only way I really know how to judge, you know, how's our progress. I still find it.
Right on.
I still find, you know, I'm like, and that's where the breathing.
Yeah.
Glass of wine, whatever. You know, jiu-jitsu. Nothing for me like you. Nothing does it for me like jiu-jitsu. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu is amazing.
Yeah, so that's why, and I'll probably recommend this book a million times, but Stealing Fire
Yeah, I read it.
book,
I read it. You recommended it, and I
amazing,
read it.
right?
It was an amazing book. Amazing book.
People who really transform their lives, meditation, psychedelics, martial
Yeah,
arts. That's proven, man.
no
It's
doubt.
proven.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, brother. This was a good one, man. Really good one. I'm
Yeah,
glad we were able to connect
the-
again. I'm sure next time we
absolutely.
talk, it'll be like 120 here.
Nice.
What do you got
All right.
planned? Anything planned for the week?
No, I got like some real dad life shit over the weekend. I got